And because of all the other things we talked about, like Ralph talking about those barriers, when I tell our story about upbringing, and obviously there was a transition when my dad did some things and exposed me to other things. He married my stepmother, who was a federal judge, and I was a lot older by then, and that was my first insight of law. And I remember saying, I'm gonna be a lawyer, only because that was the first time. But growing up, it was be a basketball player,
correct,
be a drug dealer, be a rapper. Those were the three things that you thought about. And everybody in my community, all my friends picked one of those.
Welcome to the Leadership Sovereignty Podcast. I'm your host, Ralph Owens, along with Terry Baylor. In this last and final episode of The New Glass Ceiling, Part 5, with Philip Yates, Philip dives into the concept of how EQ is going to become your greatest asset. He also talks about how exposure to wealth allows us to walk in our purpose. Enjoy the show.
And so I was listening to a discussion or a lesson that Miles Monroe was teaching. And this changed my life. I told this to my kids this past week. Here's the benefit of a job. A job is paying you to learn. Go learn.
I like that.
They pay you to learn. It's not forever. It's not forever. Right. Mm-hmm. And so just to tie it back to our earlier conversation, because I know we're wrapping up here soon. He said, look, to your point, Phil, he said, you can be fired from a job. You can be let go from a job, but you cannot be fired from your work. So Ralph, to your point, you found your work. Your work is your mission, your passion, what you're designed to do. Right? So go get the job. Learn some stuff. Let them pay you to learn, right? Because you're bringing your IP, right? It's not all one-sided. You're bringing your IP. You're joining your IP with theirs, right?
Right.
Because when you leave that job, if you create something, you don't own it. They own it.
That's right.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So Phil, if you create a tool when you were counsel, they own that tool.
They already have a contract that says I've assigned all my intellectual property, and when I leave, they keep it.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So, but understand, you're leaving with something too, just like you. So, Phil, if you don't have that job, then now you're not doing what you're doing with the fintech. You learned.
That's right.
You learned a whole new skill set. That's right. A whole new discipline.
I was exposed to them going public, like just seeing that. Like now in my mind, I know the process of raising capital, getting a board, and with that pathway to doing an initial public offering. So you're speaking, it's exposure. That's what leadership is. How quickly can you be exposed? And I love what you're saying in terms of treat the job as a training ground, because your purpose can lead you in different ways, but you got to know it's your purpose. And that's what we started with. Figure out what God put you here to do, develop it, whether it's the military, whether it's a job, whether it's college, it's training. Because once you have that purpose, there's no AI that can replace you. And that's even with all the wealthy billionaires will tell you. They said, be a good human being. I think it was Serena Williams' husband, and I forget his name. He founded a platform.
Reddit, I think,
Yes. And he said, emotional intelligence is going to be the greatest asset in the future. And that's what you guys are talking about right now. That's the investment.
We just did our last show on that, so thank you.
We just did a whole show on that.
Wow.
I can't wait I need to listen to y'all's platform, man. Thank you for this. Yeah, this is good.
I love the I'm sorry, go ahead, Terry.
Ralph, go ahead.
No, I love what you're doing, Phil, because I have always wondered exactly what equilibrium was. Man, using financial data to locate the people who are in the demographic that you want to target, and then figuring out how to create a pathway for them to get to wealth. That's phenomenal, man. That is absolutely phenomenal, because to your point, those individuals that you locate, they typically would not have the exposure. Right. And we talk about, Terry and I talk about this all the time, right? Huge fans of Robert Kiyosaki, especially in Cash Flow Quadrant, right? Yes. Because once you understand ESBI and you understand that everything is a system, you either leveraging a system or you being leveraged by a system, right? You understand that, hey, you being raised to be leveraged by a system, right? And to be exposed to those who own the system, right, opens your mind to the possibilities of what can even happen, Because I remember, and this is, I'm really, really being, intimate here. So I remember there was a time in my life when I was a teenager where in my mind, I thought as an African American, the best I'll ever be able to do is to sell drugs to have a good life.
Yep.
That was based on what I was exposed to. I really did. I mean, because even those who were trying to live right, they had to live so below their means.
Meager.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, man, I don't want that. I want the big car. You know what I'm saying? I want the big house. I want to be able to live good too. But the only people that I was exposed to who had that, who looked like me, did that. So in my mind, It was like that's the only, and I'll probably die before I'm 30. I remember thinking that, right? In the environment that we grew up in, right?
I think we all
wasn't
have that
until
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't until I joined the military. I go to Virginia, right? I'm in Norfolk, Virginia. I find a church to go to. I'm a musician, so I play bass. So I'm playing there, and I meet the pastor. And the pastor, I never forget this, man, because it changed my life. He sat me down and he said, he showed me a picture from an aerial view of a helicopter of some land. He was like, man, this is what did he say? It was like 16 acres of land. He was like, it's only $23,000. He was like, that's only like, at that time, it was like, that's only like $280 a month. You could do that. And I'm thinking to myself, $280 a month. You know how much money that is? Right? I don't have enough money. I can't do that. Right? That kind of stuff. But I started seeing people who were living better, who looked like me. And I was like, oh man, there's a different way. And it was all through business ownership, right? Owning the system instead of being a part of the system. So man, I just want to thank you, Phil, for what you're doing, because it's going to help so many people. And big shout out to the Urban League Small Business University. I was a product of that. Phil was the moderator and the teacher, and it changed my life. Right, that's how Phil and I actually met. But no, I think what you're doing is 100% fantastic. It's going to help generations, right? Because you impact one life today, and they put themselves in a different financial position, right? Because we're in our community, we're very tied to our spiritual freedom.
That's right.
But not many of us see financial freedom.
Yes.
Right? The financial freedom allows you to deal with the social issues. And Terry, you talk about that all the time, right? Yep. We have to get to the financial freedom side of life along with the spiritual freedom. But yep. I think, Terry, you going to say something?
No, just to tag on to that, right? Jesus fed them first, to the 5,000, right? He fed them first, right? He dealt with their social issues. So, Phil, I think what you're doing is a modern day, 2 fish, 5 loaves of bread, kind of situation, right? You're dealing with the social issue, right? And once we can deal with the social issue, man, we can, I'm not worrying about what's going to be on the table. I'm not worrying about if the light bill is going to be on. I'm not worried about the mortgage, right? I'm not worried about the downturn, because I understand that I understand that my source is not the job, right? And this is going to be maybe too deep for some folks, but the source is in me, right? The source is in me. That creativity is in me. That God-given dream is in me. That little piece of him is in me.
That's right.
Right? I don't want to go too far, man, but you a little God. I'm telling you.
No,
it's in there. It's in the book.
I appreciate that. And I love the synergy and obviously the cultural reference, right? I know as children, we talked about this little light of mine. I'm going to let it shine. And, we're singing that song. And it's what you're talking about, the source. And because of all the other things we talked about, like Ralph talking about those barriers, when I tell our story about upbringing and, obviously there was a transition when my dad did some things and exposed me to other things. He married my stepmother, who was a federal judge. And I was a lot older by then. And that was my first insight of law. And I remember saying, I'm going to be a lawyer, only because that was the first time. But growing up, it was be a basketball player.
Correct.
Be a drug dealer, be a rapper. Those were the 3 things that you thought about. And everybody in my community, all my friends picked one of those. Luckily, I was a decent basketball player. It got me through school, even did a little bit in college. But for that, I'm not sure that I would have stayed on that path. But, we're talking about leadership and the leadership sovereignty. the quicker you can get to wealth. And that's why equilibrium is so important to me. And you guys picked up on it. I'm just speaking to the audience now. It's like, yeah, we're building personalized wealth journeys, because the quicker somebody can get on that journey, it's almost like you're peeling back the layers. So now somebody can let that source come out. And so whatever God's true purpose for you, you now have the ability to live out your purpose. Right now, it's not that people want to be poor. It's not that people want to commit. There's nobody that was born into this world saying, I'm going to hurt another human being. It's the, obviously, we give our parents have grace, and we need to give ourselves grace. And then our kids need to have grace. That's where we're at in today's world. But the only way you can do that is if you got to get them on that journey quicker. And I'll end with this, or land, is that you guys said it, and I'm hoping it didn't go over the audience head, is that it's the luxury of it, right? It's the luxury of being able to be on a pathway already, get developed, have somebody invest in you, and not worry about making money. And when I was finished law school, one of my classmates said, what was the first thing you did? And I said, fill up my refrigerator. And my wife cracks up. I do not like an empty fridge, because that's the mindset I had. I don't want my kids to go through that experience. I want them, if you're going to be a teacher, love being a teacher, because it's not about the paycheck, because you already own homes, you own businesses. You're being a teacher because you want to invest in kids. If you want to be a trash man, be a trash man. They make good money. You still have your financial freedom to think clearly, be the greatest source in the world, and walk in the footprints of Jesus Christ, as is in our book or whatever book you follow, to live out your purpose. So spot on, gentlemen. And I just thank you for the conversation.
Oh man, this has been so rich. Phil, you've helped me, man. And I think that's one of the biggest things about this platform, is that we are here to receive, bro. And thank you, man. Thank you. Go enjoy that. Go enjoy that party. You know what I'm saying? Have a great time. Tell your family we said hello, and we thank you for sharing with us today.
We'll do it. I appreciate you, gentlemen. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Be safe, and I'll make sure baby girl knows that her two new uncles said happy birthday.
All right. God bless you, man.
God bless, man.
All righty.
Thank you for listening to the Leadership Sovereignty Podcast. If this content blessed or helped you in any kind of way, support us today by subscribing to our YouTube channel, clicking the like button for this episode, and sharing this content with others that you think it will help. Until next time, stay safe, peace, and blessings.